The fist that broke the silence. A woman 7 months pregnant kneels on a gas station parking lot at 2 in the morning, blood running from her split lip, while her Navy SEAL husband stands over her, screaming that she made him do this. She cannot scream back because he has trained her not to. She cannot run because he has made sure she has nowhere to go. And then a car pulls in for fuel, and the man who steps out is not just any man. He is Bruce Lee. Not the legend, not the myth, but a living martial artist with a duffel bag and a tournament in the morning and absolutely no intention of minding his own business. What he does in the next 90 seconds will shatter a woman's cage, expose a decorated soldier's secret empire of abuse, and begin a love story so ferocious it will remake both of them from the wreckage. But first, she has to survive tonight. The concrete was wet. That was the detail Clara Nguyen registered first, not the pain in her lip. Not the taste of copper flooding her mouth, not the way Derek's boot had caught the hem of her maternity dress when she tried to stand. The concrete was wet from an earlier rain, and it soaked through the thin cotton at her knees, and the cold climbed into her bones so fast she thought for one disoriented moment that she was back in the bathtub where he had held her head under last Tuesday. "Get up," Derek said. His voice carried the particular calm he used after the first hit, the one that meant he was calculating whether anyone had seen. "Clara, get up, now." She pressed her palms flat against the ground. Her belly hung heavy between her arms, and she could feel the baby shift, a slow roll that pushed against her ribs, and she thought, I am kneeling in a gas station parking lot in Riverside, California, and my daughter is alive inside me. And if I stand up, he will hit me again, and if I don't stand up, he will hit me worse. She stood up. Derek grabbed her elbow hard enough to grind the joint. He was 6'2", 220 pounds of SEAL-trained muscle, jaw like a cinder block, and he wore his dress whites because they'd come from a unit dinner where he'd been toasted for his silver star. The other wives had told Clara how lucky she was. She'd kept her sleeves long and agreed. "You don't talk to other men," he said, walking her toward their truck. "You don't look at other men. You don't breathe near other men. What part of that is complicated for you?" She had asked the bartender for water. That was the crime. She had said, "Could I have a water, please?" to a male bartender, and Derek had seen, and now they were here. A car pulled into the lot. Black sedan, dusty California plates. It rolled past the pumps and parked 3 spaces away, and the engine cut, and the driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. He was lean, not tall, 5'8" at most, with black hair pushed back from his forehead and forearms roped with tendon and vein. He wore a plain white t-shirt and dark jeans and moved with a quality Clara had never seen in a human body before. Absolute economy. Nothing wasted. Every motion completed before the next one began. He walked toward the gas pump and then he stopped because he had seen her face. She looked away. She had been trained to look away. "Ma'am." His voice was quiet, precise, accented faintly. "Are you hurt?" Derek's hand tightened on her elbow. "She's fine. Mind your business." The man didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He looked at Clara's lip, at the blood on her chin, at the handprint already darkening on her bare arm, where Derek's grip had been minutes ago. Then he looked at Derek's uniform. "She's bleeding," the man said. "That's my business." Derek released Clara's arm and turned fully. He had 4 inches and 60 pounds on the stranger. He squared his shoulders. He used the voice that made recruits flinch. "I said she's fine. Walk away." "No." 1 syllable. Clara felt it in her chest. She had not heard that word directed at Derek in 3 years of marriage, not from his commanding officer, not from his mother, not from God himself. And this stranger, this lean man in a white t-shirt, said it the way you'd say the sky is blue. Derek swung. It was fast, SEAL fast, combat trained, a right cross aimed at the jaw. Clara flinched. She heard the air move, and then she saw something her brain could not immediately process. The stranger was no longer where the fist went. He had shifted, not jumped, not ducked, shifted, 2 inches to the left, and Derek's knuckles cut empty air, and the stranger's open palm met Derek's wrist and redirected it sideways. With so little effort, it was like watching someone turn a doorknob. Derek stumbled. His eyes went wide. He threw a left hook. The stranger blocked it with his forearm, stepped inside Derek's reach, and delivered a single strike, the heel of his palm into Derek's sternum, and Derek sat down on the concrete as if his legs had been unplugged. He sat there gasping. The stranger stepped back. He didn't pursue. He didn't posture. He looked at Clara. My name is Bruce Lee, he said. I'm going to call the police. Will you allow me to do that? She opened her mouth. No sound came. 3 years of silence had rusted the hinges. You don't have to decide now, he said, but I'm not leaving. Derek got up. He was wheezing, face purple with rage and shame, and he pointed at Bruce. Do you know who I am? I am a decorated. You are a man who hits a pregnant woman, Bruce said. I don't care about anything else. Derek lunged. This time, Bruce moved differently. Faster, harder, 3 strikes in succession, ribs, solar plexus, jaw, and Derek went down and did not get up. He lay on the wet concrete blinking at the sky, and Bruce stood over him, breathing normally, hands at his sides, and said, Stay down. If you get up, I will put you down again. That is not a threat, it is information. Clara's knees gave. She sank, and Bruce caught her, one arm under hers, careful, his hand not touching her belly, not pressing anywhere Derek had pressed. His grip was firm and completely gentle, and the contradiction made her cry. I've got you, he said. Sit here, on this bench. Yes? Yes, she said. The first word she had spoken to a man other than her husband in 11 months. He helped her to the bench outside the gas station's mini-mart. He asked if he could check her lip. She nodded. He turned her chin with 2 fingers, light as paper, and looked at the cut. Not deep, he said, but we need ice, and you need a hospital for the baby. If I go to a hospital, he'll find me. He's unconscious on the ground. He always finds me. Her voice cracked. You don't understand. He has friends, police friends, military friends. Nobody will believe me. He has a silver star. I have a split lip and no evidence, and... You have me, Bruce said. I saw everything. I will testify to everything. He cannot unwitness me. She looked at him. His eyes were dark brown, nearly black, and absolutely steady. She had forgotten what steady looked like. I'm going to call 911 now, he said. If you tell me not to, I won't. But I am asking you to let me. Call them, she whispered. He called. He gave the address. He described what he'd seen. He gave his full legal name. He stayed on the bench next to her, 2 feet of space between them. And when the ambulance came, he stood and told the paramedics exactly what injuries to check for, and then he turned to her and said, Will you allow me to ride with you? Why? Because he will wake up, and someone should be there who is not afraid of him. She said yes. She said yes because it was the first time in 3 years someone had asked. At the hospital, they confirmed a fractured rib. Old, weeks healed from when Derek had thrown her into the bathroom counter, and new contusions on her arm. And the baby was fine, heartbeat strong. And Clara lay on the exam table with her hand on her belly and cried so hard the nurse brought her a second blanket. Bruce sat in the hallway. He did not come in until she asked. I don't know why you're still here, she said. I train fighters for a living, he said. He was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, and the hospital fluorescence caught every line of his forearms, the tendons standing out like cables under warm brown skin. I have seen what violence does when there is no referee. Your husband is not a fighter, he is a bully. There is a difference. He'll say I provoked him. I know. He'll say you attacked him. He can say that. There are security cameras at the gas station. She stared. You checked? Before I called 911. Third thing I did. What were the first 2? Making sure you were breathing. Making sure he wasn't. She almost laughed. The pain in her rib caught it and turned it into a gasp, and Bruce's jaw tightened. A tiny motion, barely visible, but she saw it. Does the rib hurt when you breathe? He asked. Only when I breathe. Then we should make sure you keep doing it. That night, Derek was arrested. He made bail by morning because his CO called in a favor, and by noon Clara had a temporary restraining order that she knew was worth less than the paper it was printed on. She had no family. Derek had severed those ties systematically in the first year. She had no money. The accounts were in his name. She had a baby due in 8 weeks in a furnished apartment she could not return to because he had the key and the landlord owed him a debt. Bruce found her in the hospital lobby trying to figure out where to go. I have a training gym, he said. There's an apartment above it, 2 rooms, a lock on the door. You can stay there until you have a plan. I can't. You can. I'm offering, no conditions. People will talk. People are already talking. They talked while he broke your rib, and none of them called 911. Let them talk. She moved into the apartment above his gym. It smelled like sandalwood and clean sweat and old wood. The mats downstairs were dark blue. She could hear his students training in the mornings. The sharp exhales, the slap of skin on pads, the occasional burst of laughter. It was the first sound she woke to that wasn't Derek's breathing. She saw Bruce only at transitions, when he climbed the stairs to bring her groceries, when he passed her door heading to his own room on the opposite side of the building. He never knocked without announcing himself first. He never entered without her explicit word. Bruce. Yeah. My name is Clara. You haven't used it. I didn't want to assume. Assume? Clara. He said it carefully, as though testing the weight of it in his mouth. Have you eaten today? Not yet. I'm making rice. There's enough for 2. Do you want to come down, or do you want me to bring it up? I'll come down. They ate at the small table in the gym's back office. He cooked precisely, the way he moved. Nothing wasted, every motion deliberate. The rice was perfect. The vegetables were cut into identical pieces. He ate with chopsticks and she ate with a fork, and neither of them mentioned it. Your students like you, she said. She'd watched from the upstairs window. They tolerate me. I make them do wall sits. The girl with the red headband, she doesn't just tolerate you. She watches you like you hung the moon. May, she's 15. Her father used to hit her mother. She started training because she wanted to know how to make it stop. Clara put her fork down. I'm sorry, he said. I shouldn't have. No, I'm glad you told me. It means you see it. Most people don't. Most people don't want to. A week passed, then 2. Derek's court date was set and then postponed. His lawyer filed a motion claiming Bruce had initiated the altercation. Clara received a letter from Derek's attorney demanding she recant. She received a voicemail from Derek's mother calling her a liar. She received a text from Derek himself, from a burner phone that said simply, I know where you are. She showed Bruce the text. His expression didn't change. He took her phone, screenshotted the message, forwarded it to the detective handling her case, and then looked at her. He wants you afraid, Bruce said. Fear is his technique. It's the only one he has. It works. I know. That's why you need a better one. What? Truth. Documented, witnessed, undeniable truth. We build the case so heavy that not even his silver star can outweigh it. He contacted a legal aid attorney. He connected Clara with a women's shelter advocate. He drove her to the courthouse to amend the restraining order, and at no point during any of it did he touch her again. She noticed. She noticed the way he kept his hands in his pockets when they walked. She noticed the way he sat across from her, never beside, never crowding. She noticed the 2 feet of space he maintained like a physical law. On the 3rd week, she was standing at the kitchen counter slicing an apple, and the knife slipped and caught her thumb. She hissed. Blood welled. Bruce was there in 3 steps, and he reached for her hand and then stopped, fingers hovering an inch from hers. Can I? He said. Yes. He took her hand. His fingers were calloused, warm, dry. He examined the cut, wrapped it in a clean cloth, and held pressure. His thumb rested against her wrist, and she knew he could feel her pulse slamming. It's shallow, he said. I know. Your heart's racing. I know that too. He looked up. His eyes were so close she could see the ring of amber around the pupils. He released her hand gently, stepped back, and said, I'll get a bandage. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay in the narrow bed and felt the place on her wrist where his thumb had been, and wanted to scream because her body had been a war zone for 3 years, and now a single point of warmth had turned it into something she didn't recognize. She got up. She walked downstairs. The gym was dark except for a single lamp in the office. Bruce was there, shirtless, sitting on the mat, stretching. His back was to her, and she could see every line of him. The long muscles along his spine, the scars on his left shoulder blade, the way his skin moved over his ribs when he breathed. He was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with beauty. He was present. Every cell of him occupied exactly the space it was meant to. Clara. He didn't turn around. You should be sleeping. So should you. He stood and faced her. The lamp threw shadows across his chest. She saw more scars. one across his sternum, one on his left hip just above his waistband. She saw the flat plane of his stomach and the dark line of hair below his navel, and she felt her breath change. "I can hear you breathing differently," he said. "Tell me what you need." "I don't know how to ask for what I need." "Then tell me what you don't need. We'll work from there." "I don't need distance. Not from you. Not tonight." He was quiet. His chest rose and fell. "Clara, you're in a vulnerable position. I don't want to be a man who takes advantage of—" "You're not taking. I'm giving. There's a difference. You taught me that." He closed his eyes. "Open them. If I come closer and at any point you want me to stop, you say stop. Not slow down, not wait. Stop and I stop. Okay? Say it back to me. I say stop and you stop." He crossed the mat. He stopped a foot from her. She could feel the heat coming off his skin, and it was nothing like Derek's heat. Not the furnace of rage, not the suffocating press of a body used as a weapon. This was warmth, offered, optional. He raised his hand, paused. "Can I touch your face?" "Yes." His fingertips met her jaw. He traced the line of it, slow, so slow, up to her temple and back down to her chin. His thumb brushed the corner of her mouth where her lip had healed, the scar still pink. "Does this hurt?" "No." "What about this?" He leaned in and pressed his lips to the scar. One kiss, soft. She felt the exact texture of his mouth, the slight roughness of his lower lip, the warmth of his breath against her skin. "That doesn't hurt," she whispered. He kissed the corner of her mouth again, and then her cheekbone, and then the soft spot below her ear, and she realized she was shaking. Not from fear, but from the sheer overwhelming relief of being touched by hands that weren't designed to damage her. His mouth found the side of her neck, and she heard herself make a sound she hadn't made in years. A sound of want, raw and unashamed. "Is that a good sound?" he asked against her skin. "Yes. God, yes. Tell me if it changes." His hands slid down her arms and found her hips, and he pulled her closer, slowly, giving her time to resist, to redirect, to refuse, and she didn't. She pressed against him and felt the full length of his body against hers, the hard planes of his chest against her breasts, his hips against her belly, the undeniable evidence that he wanted her as much as she wanted him. She felt the baby kick between them, and he pulled back. "Did the first—" She kicked. "It's fine. She does it when my heart rate goes up." He looked down at the space between them where her belly pressed against him. "She has good timing." "She has terrible timing. Don't stop." He didn't stop. He kissed her mouth, and she opened for him, and the kiss went deep and thorough. And she tasted green tea and something mineral and clean, and his tongue moved against hers with the same deliberate precision he brought to everything, and she felt it all the way down into the base of her spine. His hands gathered the fabric of her nightgown at her hips and stopped. "Can I take this off you?" "Yes, take it off." He lifted the gown over her head. She wore nothing underneath, and the gym air hit her skin and she shivered, and he pulled her against him immediately, his arms wrapping around her back, his bare chest against her bare chest, skin to skin, and the contact was so good it was violent, a detonation of nerve endings 3 years dead coming back to life. She felt tears on her face and didn't care. "Still good?" he breathed. "Don't ask me that again, just watch me. You'll know." "I'll know," he agreed, and his mouth dropped to her collarbone and then lower, and his hands cradled her breasts with a tenderness that bordered on reverence, and his thumbs moved across her nipples in slow circles, and she arched into him and gripped his shoulders, and felt the muscles shift under her palms. He kissed the swell of her belly, a long, slow line from her sternum to her navel, and then he knelt in front of her and looked up, and she could see the lamp reflected in his dark eyes. "Here," he said, "on the mat. Let me lay something down." He grabbed a clean blanket from the office, folded it double, and laid it on the mat. He guided her down, his hand behind her head, lowering her with the same care he would use to set down something made of glass. She lay on her back, and he stretched beside her, propped on one elbow, and his free hand traveled from her throat to her hip in one slow, unbroken line. "You are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he said, "and I need you to believe that I mean it." "I believe you." He touched her between her thighs, and she gasped and caught his wrist. Not to stop him, but to hold him there, to press his hand closer, and he understood. He moved his fingers with devastating patience, reading her body the way he read an opponent. Every shift, every breath, every micro-response calibrated and answered. She heard her own voice in the dark gym saying his name and saying yes and saying there and saying please, and his mouth was on her neck and his hand was between her legs, and she came apart with a sound that bounced off the ceiling, and she didn't care who heard it. He held her through the aftershocks, his forehead against her temple, his breath ragged now, his control fraying. "I want you inside me," she said. Is it safe? With the baby? If you want it, we'll be careful. You tell me the position. You set the pace." She turned on her side and he pressed behind her, his chest against her back, and he entered her slowly, achingly slowly, and she felt every inch of him, and he stopped twice to ask, "Good?" And she said, "Good, good, don't stop," and he moved with her, one arm wrapped carefully over her belly and the other braced against the mat. And the rhythm they found was nothing like the brutal efficiency she associated with sex. It was patient and thorough, and she felt herself building again, and his breath was hot against the back of her neck, and his hand slid down and found the place where they joined, and touched her there in time with his thrusts, and she came again, harder, and he followed her with a groan that sounded like it was torn from somewhere deep in his chest. They lay tangled on the mat. His arm was still around her. His hand rested flat against her belly, and the baby kicked once against his palm, and he made a soft, laughing sound. "She's got power," he said. "She's got her mother's timing." He kissed the back of her neck, then he sat up. "I should go. You need sleep. Real sleep." "Bruce." "Yeah. Thank you. For asking. Every time." "That's not something you thank someone for, Clara. That's baseline. That's minimum." He left. She lay on the mat for a long time, her hand where his hand had been, and she did not feel ruined. She felt rebuilt. In the morning she was mortified. She came down to the gym, and his students were warming up, and she turned beet red and tried to retreat back upstairs, and May, the girl with the red headband, caught her on the landing. "You look different today," May said. "You look like you slept." "I did." "About time. You want breakfast?" Sifu made congee. She sat at the table and Bruce brought her a bowl, and their eyes met, and she saw the same mortification in him, the same raw uncertainty, and it made her brave. "Can we talk?" she said. "After class." "No, before class. I need to say something before I lose my nerve." He set down the ladle. His students were stretching 10 feet away. He leaned in. "I don't regret it," she whispered. "I need you to know that." His whole body loosened. She hadn't realized how tight he'd been holding himself until the tension left. "I don't either," he said. "I just need to know it was yours, your choice. Not proximity, not gratitude, not... It was mine. I chose you. I would choose you again. I would choose you right now on this table if your students weren't here." His eyes went wide. May, who had better hearing than any 15-year-old should, choked on her congee. That afternoon, Clara found May in the equipment room, wrapping her hands. "Can I ask you something?" Clara said. "Sure." "Sifu Bruce. He's hard to read. I can't tell if he wants me to pursue this or if he's pulling back to give me space." May grinned. "Both. He's an overthinker. My mom says the best way to deal with an overthinker is to exhaust him, physically. Once the brain is tired, the heart talks. Your mom is very wise. My mom bench presses 220. Wisdom is optional when you're that strong." That night, Clara went to his room. She didn't knock. She walked in and found him sitting on the edge of his bed, reading a book on legal rights for domestic violence victims. Bookmarked, annotated, highlighted in 3 colors, and she took the book out of his hands and set it on the nightstand and straddled his lap. "Clara, shut up, just for once. Shut your brilliant, careful, principled mouth and let me have you." He shut up. She pulled his shirt over his head and put her mouth on the scar across his sternum, and felt his hands come up to grip her hips, and she set the pace this time, slow then fast, then slow again, and she watched him come undone beneath her, and it was the most powerful she had felt in her entire life. When it was over, he was boneless, eyes half closed, his hair damp, his breathing wrecked. "Stay," he murmured. It wasn't a command. It was the farthest thing from a command. I'm staying. She pulled the blanket over them and he fell asleep holding her, his face buried in her hair, his arms careful around her belly, and in the morning when she woke he was watching her. "Good morning," he said. "You're staring. You're worth staring at. But if it makes you uncomfortable, I'll stop." "It doesn't make me uncomfortable. It makes me hungry. For breakfast," she added. "Pervert." He laughed. It was the first time she'd heard him laugh. A real laugh, unguarded, and it transformed his face completely. But 3 days later she found him in the gym at midnight, not stretching, sitting against the wall with his right hand pressed flat against his sternum, breathing in shallow, careful pulls. His skin was gray. His veins stood dark against his forearms, not the warm bronze she knew, but something duller, more blue. "Bruce, I'm fine." "You're gray. You are literally the color of concrete right now. Don't tell me you're fine." He looked up and she saw pain in his eyes, real pain, physical, deep. "There's something wrong with my heart," he said. "I've known for 2 years. The doctors call it cerebral edema risk with cardiac complications, a reaction to a medication I was prescribed after a back injury. The side effects were supposed to be temporary. They weren't." "How bad?" "Bad enough that I shouldn't be fighting. Bad enough that the tournament I was driving to the night I met you, I might not have survived it." "Then why were you going?" "Because I didn't have a reason not to." She knelt in front of him. She took his hand from his sternum and placed it on her belly, and the baby kicked against his palm, and his eyes filled. "You have a reason now," she said. "So tell me what you need." That night they talked until dawn. He told her everything. The back injury during a film stunt, the prescription that should have been monitored and wasn't, the doctor who'd been paid to keep quiet because the production company didn't want liability. She listened and she thought about silence and how many different shapes it takes. The silence of a woman trained not to scream, the silence of a man trained not to ask for help. "There's a specialist in San Francisco," she said. "Dr. Karen Moy. She's been doing clinical work on exactly this kind of cardiac cerebral complication. She published a paper last year." He stared. "How do you know that?" "Because before Derek I was a third-year medical student. He made me drop out. He said a wife didn't need a degree, but I kept reading. I never stopped reading. I have her paper on my phone right now." "You're a doctor." "Almost a doctor. Close enough to know that what you're describing is treatable if you get to the right person in time, and close enough to know that if you don't, the next episode could kill you." He was quiet for a long time. "You saved my life at a gas station," she said. "Let me save yours in a hospital." She contacted Dr. Moy the next morning. She used language Derek had forbidden her from using, precise, clinical, authoritative. She described Bruce's symptoms with a fluency that made the receptionist transfer her immediately. An appointment was set for the following week, but Derek moved first. He showed up at the gym on a Tuesday afternoon. He brought 2 friends, both active military, both armed, both willing to testify that Clara had attacked Derek at the gas station and that Bruce had assaulted a service member. He brought a document alleging that Clara was mentally unstable, unfit to parent, that she had a history of fabricating abuse claims. The document was signed by a military psychologist who had never met Clara. Bruce met them at the door. He didn't raise his fists. He raised his phone. "I'm recording," he said. "Everything you say from this point is on camera. The cloud upload is automatic. Even if you take my phone, it's already saved. Would you like to continue?" Derek's friends left. Derek stayed. His jaw worked, his fists clenched. He looked past Bruce at Clara, who stood in the office doorway, and his eyes held the flat, dead certainty of a man who has never been told no by someone he couldn't break. "She's my wife," Derek said. "She's carrying my child. You have no legal right." "I have security footage from the gas station," Bruce said. "I have hospital records documenting her injuries. I have screenshots of threats you sent from a burner phone. I have a restraining order you're currently violating by standing here. What do you have?" "I have a silver star." "You have a history of violence against a woman half your size. The silver star means you're good at hurting people. That is exactly the problem." Derek left, but Clara knew it wasn't over. Derek never left. He circled. He waited. He tightened the noose by degrees. May's mother, Gloria, a broad-shouldered woman with kind eyes and scarred knuckles, came to Clara 2 days later. "I need to tell you something," Gloria said. "About Derek, about what happened before you." Clara went still. "There was another woman, before you. Her name was Lena. She filed a report. Broken orbital bone, ruptured eardrum, fractured wrist. Derek's unit covered it up. His CO, Captain Harding, made it disappear. Lena recanted under pressure. She left the state. But the original report still exists. I know because my ex-husband was the MP who took it. He kept a copy." "Where?" "I have it. I've had it for 2 years. I was afraid to use it because Harding's people threatened my daughter. But May is safe now. She's safe because of Bruce. So here." She handed Clara a manila envelope. Inside was the original military police report, signed and dated, documenting injuries to a woman named Lena Park, consistent with sustained domestic assault. The accused, Petty Officer First Class Derek Harding, Clara's husband, and the son of Captain James Harding, the same commanding officer who had made it all disappear. Derek's violence wasn't a flaw. It was a family inheritance, protected by rank, sealed by power. Clara brought the documents to Bruce. He read them on the mat, cross-legged, and his hands were steady, but his veins stood dark, too dark, against his forearms, and she saw his breathing catch, and she said, "We need to get you to San Francisco before we do anything else. We need to file these first. You need to be alive to testify. San Francisco, tomorrow." "Clara, I am not asking. I am telling you. You taught me the difference between a request and a command. This is a command." He looked at her. Then he nodded. They drove to San Francisco. Dr. Moy ran tests. The results confirmed what Clara had suspected. The cardiac inflammation was advanced but reversible with the right intervention. The treatment would take weeks. He would be weak during it. He would need monitoring. "I'll monitor him," Clara said. Dr. Moy looked at her. "You have medical training?" "Third-year medical student, interrupted, not forgotten." "Good enough. I'll write the protocol. You administer it. And when this is over, you should finish that degree." They returned to Riverside. Clara set up a monitoring station in the gym office. She tracked his vitals twice daily. She adjusted his medication. She watched his veins return from blue-gray to warm bronze, watched the color come back to his skin, and every night she pressed her ear to his sternum and listened to his heartbeat grow stronger. "Clara, shh. I'm counting. Clara, listen to me." She lifted her head. "When this is over," he said, "when Derek is dealt with and the baby is here and I'm healthy, you should know that I need you to understand." "Understand what?" "You came to me in crisis. You were fleeing a monster. I don't want to be the man you ran to because you were running from someone else. I need to be the man you'd choose if you had every option in the world." She sat up. She took his face in her hands. "Bruce Lee, you idiot. You beautiful, principled, overthinking idiot. I am choosing you. With every option in the world. With no option in the world. With this baby and this broken rib and this scar on my lip and this almost medical degree and every single piece of wreckage that I am. I choose you. You'll leave," he whispered. "When you're whole again. When you don't need protection anymore. You'll realize I was wrong," she said. "That's what you're supposed to say. You were wrong. Say it." His eyes searched hers. "I was wrong. Good. Now tell me what you were trying to say." He took a breath. His hand found hers. "I low." His eyes went wide. His hand spasmed against hers. His veins flooded dark, every one of them, forearms and neck and temples, and he made a sound like all the air had been punched out of his body and he collapsed backward onto the mat. "Bruce!" She caught his head before it hit the floor. His pulse was rapid, irregular, hammering against his throat. She grabbed the emergency medication Dr. Moy had prescribed and prepared the injection with hands that did not shake because she was a third-year medical student, and she had been trained for this, and Derek had taken her career, but he had not taken her knowledge. "Stay with me," she said. She administered the injection. She monitored his pulse. She counted the seconds between beats. She was 7 months pregnant on her knees on a gym mat at 3 a.m, performing emergency cardiac care on the man she loved, and she did not falter. But the medication wasn't enough. His breathing grew shallow. His skin went gray again, the color of the concrete where she'd knelt the night they met. "I need to tell you something," she said, pressing her forehead to his. And you need to hear it because it's the thing that will save your life, and it might also be the thing that makes you hate me. The medication Dr. Moy prescribed, the protocol, I modified it. 3 days ago, I recognized a compound interaction she'd missed because she's a cardiologist and I was trained in pharmacology. The interaction was accelerating the inflammation, not reducing it. I changed the dosage without telling her, without telling you, because I knew you'd refuse to let me practice medicine without a license, and I knew the original protocol would kill you. His eyes were half open. He was listening. I practiced medicine on you illegally. I altered your treatment without consent. That is a crime, and I would do it again, and if you hate me for it, how? He breathed. How could I not love you more? She grabbed the corrected medication, the dosage she had prepared, the one she'd been secretly administering for 3 days, and injected it. She held his hand. She watched the monitor she'd rigged from gym equipment and veterinary supplies. His heart rate steadied, slowed, strengthened. His veins faded from dark to warm. The color crept back into his face like dawn. He opened his eyes. Clara, don't talk. Rest. Did you just save my life with a veterinary blood pressure cuff? And a fish tank thermometer. Don't judge me. He breathed. Deep. Full. The strongest breath she'd heard from him. Outside, tires screeched. Doors slammed. Derek's voice carried through the gym's thin walls. Clara, I know you're in there. Come out, or I'm coming in. Bruce tried to sit up. Clara pushed him down. No, not this time. This one's mine. She stood. She walked to the gym door. She opened it. Derek stood in the parking lot with Captain Harding, his father, and 2 men she didn't recognize. Harding was in civilian clothes, jaw set, the family resemblance unmistakable. Derek was in tactical gear. He had a sidearm on his hip. There she is, Harding said, the unstable little girl who thinks she can ruin my son's career. Clara held up her phone. I have Lena Park's original MP report. I have security footage from the gas station. I have hospital documentation of injuries sustained on 4 separate occasions. I have screenshots of threats sent from a burner phone. I have a sworn statement from Gloria Reyes confirming your office suppressed the original complaint, and as of 20 minutes ago, all of it has been sent to the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, the Riverside County District Attorney, and 3 news outlets. Silence. Derek stepped forward. You're bluffing. Am I? She held the phone higher. You want to check? Because the NCIS agent I spoke with, Agent Torres, she was very interested in the pattern. 2 women, same injuries, same cover-up, same commanding officer making it disappear. She used the word conspiracy. She used the word court-martial. She used your father's name. Harding's face drained of color. He turned to Derek. You told me she had nothing. She didn't. She couldn't have. You underestimated her, Clara said. You always did. You thought dropping out of medical school meant I stopped being smart. You thought breaking my rib meant you broke my brain. You were wrong about all of it. Headlights swept the lot. 2 unmarked cars. NCIS agents stepped out, badges visible. Agent Torres, a woman with short gray hair and the bearing of someone who had seen everything, approached Derek. Petty Officer Harding, you're under arrest for violation of a protective order, assault, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Captain Harding, you're under arrest for conspiracy to suppress evidence and obstruction of a military investigation. Derek lunged toward Clara. Torres's partner intercepted him, took him to the ground with efficient force, and cuffed him. Harding stood still, jaw working, and then his shoulders dropped and he said quietly, He's my son. He's a criminal, Torres said, and so are you. They were placed in separate vehicles. Derek screamed through the window, threats, promises, accusations, and Clara stood in the doorway of the gym and let the sound wash over her and felt nothing. Not fear, not triumph, just the quiet, massive relief of a cage door finally swinging open. She turned. Bruce was standing behind her, leaning on the doorframe because his legs weren't steady yet, and his veins were warm bronze under the parking lot lights, and his eyes were wet. I love you, he said. Full, complete, unbroken. I love you, Clara. I loved you on a gas station parking lot, and I loved you on a gym mat, and I love you right now in this doorway, and I will love you tomorrow and the day after and every day your daughter kicks me in the palm. That's a lot of days. I'm counting on it. She crossed the space between them and kissed him, and his arms wrapped around her, and the baby kicked and he laughed against her mouth, and she thought, this is what safe sounds like. Not silence, not the absence of violence, but laughter, offered freely, received without fear. Derek Harding was convicted on all charges: assault, witness intimidation, conspiracy, violation of protective order. Captain Harding was court-martialed and stripped of rank. Lena Park testified via video from Oregon, her voice steady, her injuries documented. The military psychologist, who had signed the false evaluation of Clara, lost his license. Gloria Reyes was commended for her courage. May wore her red headband to every day of the trial. Clara's daughter was born 6 weeks later in a hospital room that smelled like sandalwood because Bruce had brought a candle from the gym. He held Clara's hand through 18 hours of labor and did not once tell her to be quiet or be still or be anything other than exactly what she was: loud, profane, magnificent. They named the baby Lena. Clara re-enrolled in medical school the following fall. She finished her degree in 2 years. She specialized in emergency medicine. Her thesis was on identifying signs of domestic violence in emergency room patients. It was published in 3 journals. Bruce's heart healed. Not fully, never fully, but enough. Enough to train, enough to teach, enough to lift his daughter onto his shoulders every Saturday morning and walk through the neighborhood while Clara slept in, and enough to live, which was all either of them had ever asked for. On the first anniversary of the night they met, Clara drove to the gas station in Riverside. It was 2 in the morning. The concrete was wet from an earlier rain. She stood in the spot where she had knelt, and she pressed her palm flat against the ground and felt the cold and thought, I was here. I was broken here. And then a man pulled in for gas and said no, and everything changed. Bruce was waiting in the car. She got in. He looked at her. Ready? He said. Ready. They drove home. The road was dark and the headlights cut clean lines through the night, and her hand rested on his forearm and she could feel his pulse steady and strong, and it was the best sound in the world. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and leave a comment telling someone you love that you see them. Because sometimes the most powerful thing in the world isn't a fist, it's a witness.